What if Adam wasn't the first? What if, long before humanity ever opened its eyes, there were already beings, conscious, radiant and powerful, watching the foundations of the earth being laid? The Bible hints at their existence. But most believers have never stopped to truly ask, who were the sons of God mentioned before Adam was even created? Why were they present when the morning stars sang? And what role did they play in a creation story we thought we already knew? This is not a topic you'll hear from most pulpits. It's unsettling, it's ancient, and it opens a door into a spiritual world that many have forgotten or ignored. Yet it's written in Scripture, in Job, in Genesis, in the Psalms, like hidden threads woven into the fabric of our origin. Who were these beings? Why did they descend? And could their actions still affect your life today? In this video, we're going to uncover the forgotten chapter of creation, one that predates Adam and Eve and challenges the very foundations of how we see our place in the universe. Prepare to journey through biblical mysteries, suppressed texts, divine counsels, cosmic rebellions, and legacies of power that didn't vanish. They were passed on because understanding who the sons of God were might just reveal who you are. Before Adam took his first breath, before the garden bloomed under sunlight, something ancient was already watching. The Bible whispers of mysterious beings known as the sons of God, who rejoiced as the foundations of the earth were laid. In Job 38:7, it's written that the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. This verse alone suggests a divine audience present long before humanity's debut. But who were they? Were they mere symbols? Or did they walk in realms unseen, echoing the Creator's light? Modern Christianity often starts the human story with Adam, but Scripture hints at a prelude filled with cosmic activity. The idea that Adam was the first created being doesn't align with these celestial witnesses. These sons of God weren't spectators in the dark. They were part of an ancient design, a divine orchestra that played as the world was born. Their presence challenges the timeline we're taught, pulling back the curtain on an earlier act. Could it be that the human story is only chapter 2 of a much older narrative? Something sacred seems hidden just beneath the surface. We often view Genesis as the beginning, but perhaps it's only our beginning. These beings existed in a reality shaped by God before time was measured by the sun and moon. They lived, moved, and served in a dimension untouched by death or sin. The Scriptures don't elaborate much on them, but their few appearances shimmer with power and mystery. Why would God create witnesses to creation if there was no purpose for them? And more importantly, what happened to them once man arrived? Some believe these sons of God were angels, but the text doesn't call them that outright. Instead, the language used paints them as unique, radiant, and connected to divine celebration. They may have been part of a divine council, a heavenly host that worked alongside God before humanity entered the scene. Others suggest they were spiritual intelligences, ancient and wise, whose existence predates even light itself. Their songs at creation hint at joy, but also at knowledge. What did they know that we don't? And perhaps that's the heart of the mystery. Why were they there? Why did they sing? And why does the Bible offer only fragments of their story, as if guarding a secret too powerful for the unready heart? Their origin invites us to rethink our place in the divine order. Maybe humanity was not the first chapter, but the next. And if that's true, then what role did these sons of God play before Adam? And how does their legacy still echo in our world today? Hidden within the lesser-traveled pages of Scripture lie verses that challenge what we've been told about creation. Job 38 is one such chapter, where the sons of God are not only mentioned, but celebrated as witnesses to the laying of Earth's foundations. This means they existed long before humanity took shape, but they also appear again, mysteriously, in Genesis 6:2, descending and taking human wives. Who were they truly? And why would divine beings intervene so personally in human affairs? the Psalms whisper yet another layer. In Psalm 82, God stands in the divine council and judges among the gods. The Hebrew term used here, Elohim, stirs deep theological tension. Some scholars claim it refers to human judges, while others argue it points to spiritual beings with delegated authority. Whatever the case, this divine assembly reveals a pre-Adamic order, structured and empowered. Could these be the same sons of God from Job and Genesis, still present, still operating in another realm? These are not throwaway verses. They are doors, cracked open just enough to let us glimpse a greater spiritual architecture. And yet, these passages are rarely preached, perhaps because they raise more questions than tidy answers. But could it be that God hid these clues intentionally, not to confuse us, but to awaken our spiritual hunger? Maybe understanding creation requires courage to explore the mysterious, not just accept the familiar. Ancient texts outside the biblical canon also echo this mystery. The Book of Enoch, once well known among early Christians, expands on the story of the sons of God, calling them watchers and detailing their descent to earth. Though not part of most modern Bibles, these writings shaped how the early church viewed angels, rebellion, and the pre-Adamic world. Could these so-called apocryphal texts help us complete the puzzle the Bible only begins to sketch? When we consider these lesser-known sources, a powerful feeling arises that the story of creation is far richer than we imagined, that humanity did not emerge into silence, but into a world already filled with spiritual history, celestial politics, and divine purpose. And maybe, just maybe, some of those ancient players never truly left the stage. Throughout centuries of interpretation, the question has lingered: who exactly were the sons of God? Their presence in Scripture is undeniable, yet their identity remains cloaked in mystery. Among scholars and spiritual seekers alike, three major theories emerge, each offering a unique lens through which to see these beings. The first suggests they were angels, created long before man, assigned roles in the divine order. They watched as God shaped creation and later interacted with humanity in ways both subtle and dramatic. But could these be the same angels we've come to know, or were they something far more powerful? The second theory invites a deeper, more mystical reflection that the sons of God were pre-existent souls or spiritual entities. In this view, they were not bound to flesh, yet existed as conscious beings created by God prior to Adam's formation. Their joy at creation wasn't just observation, it was recognition, as if remembering a role they once played. Some link this idea to verses implying God knew us before we were formed in the womb. Could it be that these beings once walked in realms we've forgotten, realms we might have known ourselves before this earthly veil? A third possibility is even more controversial. The sons of God were part of a previous creation, one that was destroyed or reset. This is often called the gap theory, which suggests a cosmic event between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. In this gap, a civilization or order may have existed and fallen, prompting God to create anew. The sons of God, then, would be remnants of this earlier era, still present, still influential, still watching. If true, this would radically shift how we understand not only creation, but redemption itself. Each theory opens new doors, and none come without implications. If they were angels, then why did some fall so dramatically? If they were souls, could humanity carry echoes of that ancient origin? If they were from a prior creation, what does that say about God's plan and patience? These aren't just abstract questions. They speak to our very identity and the spiritual forces still at work around us. And maybe that's the point, to remind us that our world is only a small part of something far older. So we're left wondering, not just who they were, but why we were never clearly told. Perhaps the mystery itself is a divine invitation, a call to seek deeper, to ask not only with the mind, but with the Spirit. Because in uncovering who the sons of God were, we might just uncover a deeper truth about who we are and who we were always meant to be. If the sons of God existed before Adam, we must ask, what role did they play in the unfolding drama of creation? Some texts suggest they weren't mere observers, but participants in the divine order. According to the Book of Enoch, a group of these beings descended to earth and interacted directly with humans. They taught forbidden knowledge, mingled with women, and produced hybrid offspring, the Nephilim. This act wasn't a blessing, but a disruption. It introduced chaos into a world still learning to walk with its creator. These actions were not unnoticed by heaven. The Book of Enoch claims that God judged these rebellious sons severely, binding them in darkness until the final judgment. But even within the biblical canon, Genesis 6 hints at this strange union. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful. This suggests more than metaphor. It implies interaction, choice, and consequence. If these beings could disobey, they had agency. And if they had agency, they had responsibility. So what purpose were they originally created for? Perhaps they were meant to be guardians, spiritual shepherds over creation, preceding humanity in authority. Maybe they held roles in shaping realms unseen, maintaining balance and order in the cosmos. Their songs at the foundation of the world, Job 38:7, were more than praise. They were alignment, participation, vibration in tune with divine will. But something shifted. Some remained faithful, while others crossed boundaries that should never have been touched. And earth, caught between heaven and rebellion, bore the consequences. The echoes of their presence didn't vanish. Many ancient cultures speak of gods from the sky, of beings who brought knowledge, fire, and destruction. Could these myths be distorted memories of real spiritual intrusions? Perhaps the sons of God didn't just witness creation, they shaped aspects of it, guided its early stages, and then some of them corrupted it. The Bible doesn't offer every detail, but the fragments we're given point to a time when heaven and earth weren't so far apart. And this raises a profound question. If they were involved in creation and some fell, what legacy did they leave behind? Could their actions still ripple through our world today, manifesting as spiritual confusion, temptation, or even ancient knowledge hidden in plain sight? The role they played may have been cosmic, but the consequences were deeply human. And somewhere in that tension lies the next piece of the mystery. Imagine, before Adam breathed his first, there was already governance in the spiritual realms. Psalm 82 introduces us to a divine council, a heavenly assembly over which God presides. God stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among the gods. This isn't poetic flourish. It suggests a structured realm of spiritual beings entrusted with authority before mankind ever walked the earth. The sons of God may have been members of this council, each assigned responsibilities across creation's fabric. They weren't rivals to God, but appointed stewards until something broke. This concept of a celestial senate isn't unique to one passage. Throughout Scripture, echoes of divine deliberation appear. In Job 1, we see the sons of God presenting themselves before the Lord, among them even Satan. This imagery implies a recurring assembly where divine decisions are made, where cosmic assignments are discussed, and where accountability exists. Could this council have once helped shape laws of nature, order among nations, or even time itself? If so, humanity inherited a role that was once celestial in scope. The notion that these sons held administrative power before humans reframes our origin story. We weren't the first beings to carry divine responsibility. We were next in line. Genesis 1:26 says, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion." That phrase, "let us," has puzzled theologians for generations. Was it the Trinity speaking among itself? Or was it God addressing his divine counsel? Either way, it reveals a collaborative moment in the creation of man, an echo of order being passed down. Early Jewish and Christian traditions often speak of a layered spiritual hierarchy. Archangels, watchers, thrones, all part of a structure that mirrors heaven's legal and spiritual system. Within this context, the sons of God may have acted as rulers over regions, spiritual guardians over peoples, long before nations were born. Some scholars suggest that after the Tower of Babel, authority over the nations was distributed among these beings, some of whom rebelled, turning people away from the true God. This would explain the rise of pagan deities and mythologies across ancient civilizations. If a divine council once governed creation, what does it mean that we now carry the image and authority of God? Did we replace the sons of God? Or are we their successors in a plan that stretches across epochs and dimensions? One thing is certain: the authority we carry on earth has a heavenly precedent, and the spiritual tensions we face may stem from ancient rivalries, old orders unwilling to surrender what they once ruled. The beauty of divine order is often followed by the tragedy of rebellion. Just as some sons of God may have sung in harmony with creation, others chose dissonance. The most well-known of these is Lucifer, once a bearer of light, now a symbol of pride and downfall. Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 describe his fall in language dripping with sorrow and grandeur. If he was among the divine council, then his rebellion wasn't just personal, it was political, cosmic. And where one dares to defy the Most High, others are often tempted to follow. The book of Revelation speaks of a third of the stars being swept from heaven, symbolizing a multitude of heavenly beings joining Lucifer's revolt. These weren't low-ranking spirits. They were sons of God, beings of position and power, corrupted by ambition. Their rebellion fractured the harmony of the divine realm and left scars in the structure of creation itself. Some believe these fallen sons became what we now call demons, spirits of deception that continue to wage war against truth. Could the evil in the world be the lingering echo of that ancient revolt? Genesis 6 hints at this disruption when it speaks of the sons of God descending and taking human wives. Their offspring, the Nephilim, were giants, warriors, anomalies in God's natural order. This wasn't just a breach of heaven's boundary. It was an invasion of human destiny. It's no wonder that shortly after, the flood comes, a divine reset to cleanse a corrupted world. The rebellion wasn't confined to heaven anymore. It had spilled into earth, infecting what was meant to reflect God's image. These rebellious beings may still be active today, not as flesh and blood, but as invisible influences, principalities, powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. Paul warns in Ephesians 6 that our true battle is not with men, but with these ancient forces. They manipulate systems, distort truth, and stir chaos, always working behind the veil. And yet, even in their defiance, they are not beyond God's control. Their time is limited, their influence permitted for a season, destined for judgment. But perhaps the greatest mystery isn't that they fell, but why they were allowed to fall in the first place. Could it be that free will exists even in heaven? That rebellion was the price of divine love's authenticity. And if so, what does that say about the war still being waged above and within us? The fall of the sons of God might not just be a tale of the past, but a mirror reflecting the battle every soul faces today. When God formed Adam from the dust and breathed into him the breath of life, something profound shifted in the spiritual order. Genesis 1:28 declares, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion." This moment wasn't just the beginning of human life. It was the transfer of divine responsibility. Before this, spiritual beings like the sons of God may have held stewardship over creation, but now authority was handed to man. The crown passed from the heavenly to the earthly realm. This divine entrustment was more than symbolic. Adam and Eve were given dominion over all living things, tasked with bringing order, naming creation, and walking in intimacy with God. But inheriting power also meant inheriting risk. Just as some heavenly beings fell, so did humanity. And yet, God didn't revoke the gift. He allowed us to grow through consequence. Could this be the continuation of a spiritual lineage? From celestial rulers to human heirs, God's plan kept moving forward. If the sons of God once governed parts of creation, it's possible they resisted this transition. Some ancient texts suggest that certain spirits were angered by God's favor toward humanity. Psalm 8 captures this tension beautifully. What is man that you are mindful of him? You made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor. There's a sense of divine jealousy in these verses, as if the angels looked on in awe and confusion at mankind's unexpected elevation. This may explain why some sons of God chose to interfere with humanity. Perhaps they couldn't accept being replaced. Their descent in Genesis 6 could be seen not only as rebellion, but as resentment, a refusal to yield to God's new creation. What was meant to be mentorship turned into manipulation, and in doing so, they blurred the lines between spirit and flesh, heaven and earth. A war of realms began, one that still rages beneath the surface of our world today. So the question becomes, why would God risk so much on humanity? Why give us dominion knowing we could fall, knowing others would envy and resist? Perhaps because our role is more than rule, it's redemption. We aren't just successors to divine authority, we're central to a cosmic restoration plan that began before we were born. And maybe the key to understanding that plan lies in what came before us. The story of the sons of God didn't end with their fall, it echoes into our present reality. Paul reminds us in Ephesians 6:12 that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places. These aren't vague metaphors. They're ancient beings, still active behind the scenes. Could some of them be the same rebellious sons of God from the days before Adam? If so, then the spiritual warfare we face today is part of a much older and deeper battle, one we inherited without even knowing it. This legacy affects not just the world around us, but the very struggles within us. Temptation, confusion, pride, fear. Are they simply human flaws, or are they magnified by forces that know our nature better than we do? Jesus often confronted demons directly, exposing their grip on human lives, and yet he also gave authority to his followers to cast them out. This means we are not powerless. We stand at the center of a spiritual battlefield, but we are not alone, and we are not unarmed. What's fascinating is that many spiritual conflicts today mirror the ancient themes we've discussed: rebellion against order, the desire for hidden knowledge, corruption of divine gifts. The tactics may have evolved, but the agenda remains the same: to turn hearts away from the Creator. Whether through ideologies, distractions, or even distorted spirituality, these forces work subtly. Their influence is cultural, personal, and generational. But the legacy of the sons of God is not just about darkness, it's also about awakening. Because if these beings once walked in divine presence and fell, their story becomes a cautionary tale, but also a reminder of choice. We too were created with freedom, and in every decision, we choose which kingdom we serve. The spiritual legacy we carry is not one of fear, but of discernment. We are heirs of a divine promise, meant to walk in the light even when shadows press in. The ancient conflict continues, but so does the divine calling over our lives. And here's the deepest truth of all. Perhaps God allowed us to step into this conflict because He knew what was in us. Not weakness, but resilience, not confusion, but divine image. The same authority that once belonged to celestial beings now rests upon humanity, not just to survive, but to overcome. And in overcoming, we may reclaim something that was lost long ago, something that has been waiting to be restored. What if everything we thought we knew about creation was only the surface? What if Adam was not the beginning, but a new beginning? woven into a much older, divine narrative. The sons of God challenge us to look beyond the timeline we've inherited. They urge us to question, to seek, to wonder about our true place in the cosmos. Were we meant to be rulers from the start? Or was our dominion the result of a spiritual inheritance passed down after a cosmic shift? Perhaps our lives are chapters in a book still being written by the author of eternity. When we ponder their existence, we begin to ask different questions, not just who were they, but who are we? If they once held authority and fell, and we now hold authority with grace, then our task is both humbling and sacred. We are not the first to carry divine image, but maybe we are the first to do so under redemption's banner. Their story serves as a mirror, reflecting both the potential of spiritual beings and the cost of spiritual pride. And in that mirror, we may begin to understand our responsibility. The mystery of the sons of God doesn't exist to confuse us. It exists to draw us deeper, deeper into Scripture, deeper into prayer, deeper into a walk with God that's rooted not just in what is visible, but in what is eternal. Their shadow across the pages of Job, Genesis, and the Psalms is not a threat. It's an invitation to stop treating the Bible like a textbook and start treating it like a treasure map. Because those who seek do find, and those who knock will see doors open into realms they never imagined. You see, this isn't just about pre-Adamic beings or fallen watchers. It's about you. It's about us. We are not random specks in a meaningless universe. We are part of a divine succession plan, born into a war older than Earth itself. And yet, God chose to place His Spirit in us. Not angels, not heavenly hosts, but clay vessels. And maybe, just maybe, that choice is the greatest mystery of all. So now I ask you, not as a preacher, but as a fellow seeker, are you living like someone who carries divine authority, or are you still acting like a spectator in your own story? Because the truth is, we were never meant to be passive. We are part of something ancient, something cosmic, something holy. And the sooner we embrace that truth, the sooner we step into the fullness of who we were always meant to be. We began with a question: who were the sons of God before Adam? And now, after exploring divine counsels, spiritual legacies, hidden rebellions, and heavenly transitions, one truth becomes clear. There's far more to our origin story than we've been told. You are not just the result of dust and breath. You are part of a spiritual lineage caught between ancient forces and eternal purpose. This mystery isn't meant to frighten you, it's meant to awaken you. Because if the sons of God existed before us, and we now carry the authority they once held, then every choice we make matters on a cosmic scale. You weren't just created, you were commissioned. The same God who crafted galaxies has invited you to partner with Him in restoring what was lost. And that means you have more power, more responsibility, and more destiny than you've ever imagined. So, what will you do with it? Will you live like someone chosen to carry divine light in a world of shadows? Or will you ignore the ancient whispers calling you deeper? The battle between good and evil didn't start with you, but it continues through you. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you're watching this video right now. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the sons of God still influence our world today? Like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so we can keep uncovering the hidden truths that religion has forgotten, but your soul still remembers.